Hey everyone, welcome back to our another season of the Integrate This EdTech podcast. We're glad to have you back here. I hope you had some great time over the summer, that you were able to kind of enjoy time with friends and family, or even, just some me time too, and kind of use that as a chance to recharge your batteries. Because now we've kind of hit September. And I know I definitely was able to take some time away and had a couple of nice little trips here and there with the family, and got to golf, which I like to do. And so, David, what did you do to kind of like find some of that time to recharge the batteries for you?
Yeah, well, obviously, we went to ISTE together to Denver, and that was a good time. And then after that, it's kind of just our normal summer routine, which is a different pace for work and everything. But ended up being able to take a vacation to Washington. Tried to go to Canada, but because of all the fires and all that type of stuff, we weren't able to do that. So drove out to Washington, and that was cool too. Though a lot of awesome camping and parks out there, so it's good.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. Well, too bad that you weren't able to make the trip exactly how you wanted to, but kind of cool
Yeah,
that you're able to pivot and still find fun things to do. So,
right.
that's sometimes what happens, especially when you're traveling. And I know you've got younger kids than I do, and so I
Yeah,
know that could kind of be a challenge too.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It
all
was it
right.
was it was a good time, and now it's
So, like, I'm sure you guys have all had that opportunity too to kind of find those types of things. And I know for me, like the end of August gets to be kind of a busy time back at work again. There's more people coming back into buildings. They're starting to think about school a little bit. And I know for me, when I was coming back into the classroom and I got that class list of students, I was always kind of curious on who some of these kids were, because I certainly didn't know all of them, which is kind of those kids that come up through the grades together in the same school get to know each other pretty well. But when they hit you for the first time, you're starting to build those relationships with them from the beginning, and trying to build that rapport. Um, and I think one of the things that it definitely has to start with is you've got to be able to to know your students. They've got to be able to get to know you, because there's a lot of learning that's going to be happening here, over these next 9 months or so. And so I think that's where we're going with today's episode, is really that chance to welcome our students back to school, to find the opportunity to get to know them. And of course, because you're on an ed tech podcast here, we're going to do a lot of these different things with a technology spin to it. So, which is also kind of, I think, a great way to introduce technology to your students in the classroom, from the very outset of the year. And so, David is going to start us off here, looking at some different activities that would be good icebreaker, get to know your student type activities. And then I'm going to take it from there and show off a couple of different, maybe creative things, that maybe infuse a little bit of AI, but that also are going to be things that students, I think, would feel comfortable with because of the formats that they're going to be in. So, David, what do you got for us here to start with?
Jeremy was kind enough to share this with me, and it brought back some memories because of the when I was teaching some of the things that were were fairly typical to do with students. But I think that the reason I like some of these activities to do with students is that because they're always successful. I feel like they go over well, and so we're just gonna go down and look. This is a website from this is a blog from TCEA, and there's a lot of great things in here that you could just grab one of them if you're interested in doing one of these. And even if you've already started the school year and you've got your first group of classes, maybe you already did some icebreakers, that's totally fine. One of the things that we realize is that depending on what you teach, you're always going to have new groups of students. So whether you use it immediately or you save it for later, a new semester or quarter or anything like that, these are some good activities. So looking at these, the very first one, so a lot of people are probably familiar with, but the classroom scavenger hunt, um, it's a really good way to get students used to their surroundings. This one is, I would say, a little bit more geared towards elementary. So in its structure, not that you couldn't do this with middle school, high school. You might just change what is part of the scavenger hunt items, depending on what your goal is. But in a general sense, the classroom scavenger hunt, it's a fun activity. You could have students do it on their own. They could pair up with a partner and try to find the different things that are there. And then maybe you do like a prize or something like that. And this actually made me think right away of, we had open house for my daughter for first grade, about 2 weeks ago now, and they started a little bit earlier. And this was, as soon as you came in for open house, the teacher had this as one of the items, and she actually, what I thought was fun was, you have the parent do it with their student. So then you kind of have where the parent or guardian is familiar with the classroom as well, and just gets a sense for what kind of environment their student is in during the day, right? When you're not with them. Um, and so this is obviously something that you could change to tailor to whatever you would like, but I think this one like kind of stands the test of time. It's a, it's a good activity. It's one that could be used. Kind of never gets old, I don't think. But yeah, so there's the scavenger hunts. Um,
Kids don't always want to ask where things are, right? And
yeah,
so if you can just show it to them ahead of time, and they don't even have to ask that question, and then it's like getting familiar with your surroundings too, right? You're going to be a lot more comfortable if you're in a comfortable environment, and I think that's a cool way to kind of introduce that.
yeah. And it gets them off to some of the stuff that's on the scavenger hunt too. It gets them off in the direction of like the routines that they might have. So, for example, like I mentioned, my daughter, one of the things was they have a work turn-in area, but then they also have their own like cubby mailbox things for take home and stuff like that. And so getting them in the routine of, this is where that area is located, so then you're you know where it is come the first day. You're like, oh yeah, that's where I pick up my work, that's where I turn in my work, those type of things. And it doesn't seem like um that big of a deal, but I think it helps students associate with certain things that you want them to do throughout their day, certain routines that they might have to do. Um so pretty
Yeah,
cool.
great example.
The other one is, you could take this idea, and I just wanted to make a connection to Goosechase, which I know Jeremy and I have both used in the past. And this would be like a digital scavenger hunt. And I would really encourage anybody to take the time to check out Goosechase. You can have students do it with their devices. I know in the past I've worked with a lot of schools and with students that were not my own, but with teachers that had me come in and do these activities with their students. And it's a very similar concept for scavenger hunts. It's just that you have like digital items. So you might have where you answer a question, or sometimes you have to take a picture. Like you can see here, it's like a team photo. Now, this one in particular that I've pulled up for you, because of the nature of my job and what I've done in the past, this was for actually professional development. So this was made for teachers, so that you could do it for that too. So whether you're an administrator or anything, and you want to have teachers do it, it's cool for that too. But students I've had do this, and I would always have them in teams so that they could kind of help each other. And then they go on these little missions, and the missions are worth certain number of points. So, whether you go your traditional paper version where you're just trying to find the item and then check off on the item that you located it, or you could go a little bit more in depth and say you did like the digital version where it requires you to submit an answer and then earn points. And what's cool about this is you can curate it as the I guess, what would you call it, like the you're overseeing the game, so you can, as the teacher, you can like deduct points or add bonus points and a lot of cool things like that. But there's pictures, and you can have them take videos, and I had riddles in some of mine, so he had to answer the riddle to get points. And um but yeah, I would really highly recommend Goosechase as a digital version of that. And this one I would say is a really great one, not just for back to school, but even when you're getting more around like those holiday times and stuff. I've done them in the past with students around Christmas time, and you had to like take a photo with a Christmas tree, and you can do more theme based things if you want to. And so that's a great idea. Goose Chase is the name of the site, um, and
And
we'll post all these links for access to. So
yeah, so it, like you had mentioned a couple of times, it can be a very collaborative tool as well. So, doing some team related activities with it is pretty neat. But yet, it can also be kind of competitive, right? Because doesn't it
yeah,
show a leaderboard too of the different teams that where they are and what challenges they've completed so far, and
yep.
who needs to work a little harder to try to get back up and climb in the rankings.
Yeah, and this one's fun too because it has like the activity feed where as people submit things, it comes up on the activity feed, kind of
Yeah,
like social media style. But then at the end, you can view the submissions. And this was always the funnest part when working with students because basically what you would do is you'd get all your responses, and then the game would end, and then we could watch all of the video stuff together, and they usually end up being pretty funny. So that's always a good time too. So, but yeah, you'll have like your winner and based on points and all that, and yeah, it's really fun. So outside of the scavenger hunts, you have things like About Me collages. So these are always fun for just getting to know students. Like Jeremy had mentioned at the beginning, you have a new group of students that comes in. You may not be familiar with all of them, so it's a good way to have students complete these, and I would say share them too as well, so that maybe share it with another student or with the class, and so that you're creating a good culture, good environment where everybody is learning about each other. And I've always been a big proponent of like this with the scavenger hunt or with stuff like this. I always think that the teacher should do it as well. Like you shouldn't just have it where it's, hey, you guys do this. And I mean, this is a really great opportunity for the teacher to complete so that students understand that, you're all part of the same classroom. There's definitely distinctions that you make between, teacher and student, but
Yeah,
stuff
like
like this.
I don't think I would like where it says birthday necessarily write my year in there because I
Yeah.
already feel
Well,
old most days when I'm around kids. So
that was optional. So you could
yes,
always
okay.
maybe just focus on these four.
There
Uh,
you go.
but yeah, no, it's just good, for teachers to do too. There are so I've done these in the past too, where it's a bingo card and you have to get it. We always had where you go around and it's everybody working on their own, but then you have to have other people sign those boxes, right? So it was like um, loves to dance. I know Jeremy loves to dance, so I could have him sign that one for me.
You've seen that. Yeah.
Yep. Um, but these are great just to, kind of learn about other people's likes, things that they might be interested in. Um, so those are always fun. You can change these out, obviously, change what's in the boxes, um, and then you've got like getting to know you bingo here, which is the same kind of concept. It's just that they're writing their name into this little template here instead. So um, the last one that I was going to talk about is the mystery object challenge. So this would be where you'd have bags that you could put stuff into, and then have students. They can't look in the bag. Obviously, they're feeling around in the bag, and they have to make some observations and put down what they think is in the bag. Maybe this is like random objects, or maybe it's something that you've got for your students so that they're gonna things that they're gonna use in class, and you have one for each of them or something, so then they have this little bag of goodies, I guess, and they can use throughout the year, or could put some candy in there or something like that. So and maybe they do this with a partner and write down the different things that they think are in there. I know I talked with Jeremy about this last week, but I think it would be really cool. I don't know how well it would work, but I think it would be really cool if you could incorporate AI somehow with this, where you have students kind of have to describe what's in the bag, but then you put the answers into like a Magic School, like Reina or ChatGPT or something like that, and you have to describe it and see if the AI can guess what the object is. Um, I it's kind of on a whim, so I don't know how well it would guess it, but I think it'd be fun. Um, Maybe that's something Jeremy and I need to do for an episode. We just need to do a mystery bag episode. So
Yeah, I think that would be really cool, like playing almost like a 20 question style thing with it
yeah,
to see how it does. Yeah,
yeah.
no, that's pretty awesome. Hey, I'd have to give a big shout out right now then to Keith Anderson, seventh grade science teacher in Malacca, who I worked with for a long time. And he would, for his seventh graders, when they would come in, he would do like a mystery bag thing, and they'd have to reach their hand in and try to feel around what that object was without being able to see it. And he would never tell them what was inside that bag. And if they wanted to ever find out what was in that bag, they had to come back their senior year, like the week of graduation, and that's where he would tell them. So, like 6 years later for some of these kids,
Oh,
and they often came back to find out exactly what it was that was in there because they just had to know. And
did
I
he
don't know
give you
how he
items?
keeps a lid on that and doesn't get older students to go and tell their younger siblings or friends like oh, here's what it was, kind of thing. But I don't know, he's just kind of done really well convincing these students that the only way you're going to find out is to come back and ask me, but you got to be like graduating first. And that's
Yeah,
really kind of cool. And I think, it's one of those things that students obviously remember about him years and years afterwards, right? And so that's really kind of neat. Good job, Keith.
yeah, yeah. That's dedication to make them wait and you know uh, have them come back and ask you what was in it once
Right?
they graduate. Pretty interesting. Um, Yeah, so the last one that I've got before Jeremy gets into his is just the so things like this, because we've had such large focuses on AI, um taking whether you've got like a sheet of different activities, or you could even go off of this website. um Brisk is one that we've talked about in the past, and what you could do is, if you use the little brisk icon even on the web page, is you could click on this and hit create. And then I'm just going to do something else, and then let's say I want to say can you give me 5 more options for icebreaker activities to do with my 7th grade students based on what was given for ideas in this web page. We'll try that. And then we can hit brisket. I've got my thing set for 7th grade here. You could change the language if you want. And then I just hit brisket, and we'll see if it can come up with some fresh ideas for us here. So two truths and a tall tale, emoji mood board, time capsule letters. Oh, that's kind of along the lines of what Keith does. Only I know it's a mystery bag, but I've heard of this before, where you have them, write it a letter when they're in kindergarten or something, and then they save it until their senior year when they graduate, stuff like that.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
Song lyric matchup, and then would you rather chain reaction. So yeah, this is always worth a shot. I mean, fresh ideas from AI, always a good thing. So all right, and that's mine. So I'm gonna send it over to Jeremy. He's gonna show us some stuff, some avatar stuff.
All right. One app that I really, really like when it comes to getting students involved into creating and designing actually comes from Adobe. And Adobe has these designer challenges that they come out with each month. And the one for this month in September is kind of a get to know yourself type of an activity. Like David had that one with the student's picture on there and the different boxes to add things about what they like or what they don't like, sort of stuff. But you can also do something like that digitally here. And so one of these is using this design challenge as suggested by Adobe is to make a digital action figure of yourself. And I also like that what this does is it involves AI into it as well. So this activity is described in this little video here that goes about a minute 50 seconds. But we're just going to kind of work on this here ourselves to kind of go through it. After I clicked on the directions down there, it gives you like step-by-step directions too, as well, to be able to create this. I should also say here before I dive into changing these different parts right here, is that you do need an Adobe account in order to use it, but you can use it on a free version. Also with Adobe and the way that they integrate their AI is that you get like AI credits that you get to use X number of credits a month. And then at the end of the month, they can kind of regenerate. So if you do too many of them on your own account, you're probably going to run out of those different credits here. But it's really pretty simple. You know, it says click on the name down in this corner, which is totally an editable thing. So I can just go in and click where it says Dana, and I can put Jeremy in there instead. And if it doesn't fit in that box, I can just make that a little bit bigger. You'll notice that also there when I did that, if I don't like the colors, I can totally change the colors out. I can change the font part of it. Like if I think this is kind of a cooler way to do it, change the size of it if I need to in order to get it to fit. I might have to scroll a long time. I can also just type in a number and see that it fits in there a little bit better, maybe too small. Anyway, you get the idea here that you can change the name in there. So each student would have their own, right? Then you're going to go to the AI part of it, which is, I think, kind of the cool part. So when you click on this image of their placeholder that they have in there, right? Okay, now that I've changed the name on there, the next part is to change the image that's on there. So step 2 here says to click the image to open the image panel. And so there I am, and I'm going to click on this generate image button that's right here. And you're going to notice that it brings up this text box here. So what Adobe has done as part of this design challenge is given you the prompt template that you're going to use to generate your own image in that box. So that action figure that you're trying to make. So I'm going to, and all you have to do is just change the parts in the parentheses, right? So I'm going to, instead of female, make it male. Instead of brown eyes, I'm going to make it green eyes. And instead of chin length black hair, I'm going to make it, let's make it a blonde mohawk hair. Again, the doll has brown eyes. I'm going to make green, a green shirt and blue jeans. I'm wearing a, how about I add like gray striped shirt. And I'm going to just say black pants because actually I have black pants on, even though you can't see them, which is okay. You don't need to see my pants, I guess. This is not that type of podcast. Where did we go? Blue jeans. There we are. And I'm going to make them black pants and I don't know, red shoes, even though you can't see my feet, are pretty good. And pink glasses, I'm going to say, come on. And I'm not wearing pink glasses or anything with, and maybe I could just delete that whole part together. You can see I'm kind of doing this on the fly. So we hope that this turns out well. Because we all know that when you're doing things in real time, they always go perfect the way that you want them. So like instead of holding a soccer ball, I'm going to say, I'm going to be holding, I'm having a hard time with moving my trackpad here today. Okay. Let's just delete and type holding, let's just say a laptop. Again, whatever the student's preference is, or that gives, that it could be a teddy bear, it could be a golf club, it could be, whatever is important to that student. Then we're going to leave it with bobblehead style with a big head, small body on a plain background. And again, if you want to change some of those things, you totally can. Okay. So now that I've done that, I need to click generate. So I'm going to go click generate. And you can see the little spinny circle there. Hey, there we go. A gray striped shirt, green eyes, definitely. It definitely has kind of that spiky blonde hair. This guy is, obviously quite the studious person there. You can tell just by looking at him. So then you go through and you could change the rest of the text that's in that image, right? So if I'm not a soccer player, but I play golf, I can go in here and I can write plays golf. You can say loves pizza and plans to set a high score in Ms. Pac-Man. Okay. Again, whatever the student wants to share about themselves that will help you get to know them better, I think is kind of the focus here. And then there's one more text box that's down here on the bottom, and you can write whatever you want about Jeremy, his focus, caring, and favorite subject, etc. And so then when you're done, you go down and you click next, and you can then download the design that you have in your format of choice, and you could post it, either a printed copy of it, or you could post it digitally in a space where your other students can access. So I think kind of a cool, creative way to share information and to get to know people a little bit better. So that's kind of cool. And I think, of course, like David had said earlier too, this should be something that the teacher really does first, right? Like, the students are also trying to get to know you at the same time you're trying to get to know them. So going out on a limb and sharing a little bit about yourself and that definitely is going to be helpful. Now, if you didn't like the image here too, I should have pointed out, you can also go in and you can regenerate and change what you had here to get it to more accurately reflect what you want, which is a kind of a key thing about AI in general. If you're not getting what you want from the prompt that you put in, change your prompt, right? And just keep tweaking it until you get that way. Keep, up with those iterations and not just like throw your hands up and say, I'm done. Cool. Now, I also realize that not everyone wants to explore a brand new product. Like for some of you, Adobe might be, even though there's lots of great stuff about Adobe that you should definitely be trying out and allowing your kids to. Another activity that is a little bit similar to this, in that it can be used as a get to know you activity for your kids, and definitely incorporates some tech skills, but also kind of can give it a feeling of a format that kids understand, is to make an Insta style profile template. Huge shout out to Matt Miller, who designed this template of this, that as you look at it, looks kind of like your profile page on Instagram. And so I've got this link to it here that we will share out. But the idea here is that you can show visual things that represent who you are, or the student, who they are, by putting them in there and adding a little bit of like caption or comments based on those pictures. So everything that you see in here as far as these text fields, right, are all editable, and you can totally use your real Instagram if you want to, or just make one up, right? It's not going to be something that's going to be shared to the wide world. So whatever you put in there is great. Add some names, add like followers and that sort of stuff, and then give a little description that sums up you in maybe like 3 lines. You can even make up a website there, or if they have a real one, put a real one in there. It's not going to hurt. And then what are some of the recent photos that are in there that might help to tell someone else even more about you, right? So I added one here that I had on my desktop. And then all I did here is I went up in Google Slides and I chose the comment button. And by clicking add comment here, I gave a caption basically to that photo. Because photos by themselves are great, but when the student gives them a little bit more context, it helps maybe understand them a little bit more. And you could see that I left some space that I could add some more here too. So you could make it that, hey, you got to fill in with 9 pictures, or you could just say, maybe we'll cut it off at like 5 or 6, that helped to give a little bit more about who you are. These are I think great things to share, especially at the beginning of the school year, or as you start to get new students that come back in. And you know what, I like these 2 activities because I think they are portrayed in a style that students are familiar with, right? So they're not going to have to spend a whole lot of time learning something new. These platforms, I think, are pretty understandable for them.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us for our back to school tips. Hopefully, you could gain something from it. Maybe pull one of the ideas from the different activities that were covered, or if you really just want to create an avatar of yourself and play around with the AI in Adobe, that's a great tool as well. So make sure you check us out next week as we start to explore FigJam and all the different things that it has to offer over the next 2 weeks. And we have new episodes dropping every Thursday. So we'll see you next week.
Yeah, good luck to start the year, everyone.